The title of this chapter, the second chapter that I'm going to read from, is It's Hospital Time. Get up. Boogity, 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 shoot. And it begins by a quote from Philip Roth's novel American Pastoral. Who is set up for tragedy and the incomprehensibility of suffering? Nobody. The tragedy of the man not set up for tragedy, that is every man's tragedy. It's one thing to get born in a hospital, and quite another thing to go into a hospital young, knowing that something is terribly wrong with you, both eyes open, pumping adrenaline, and then get left there. If there's a more submissive state than being hospitalized, tell me about it. Even prisons give you more room to operate. At 11, hearing that visiting hours are over just doesn't cut it, especially on the first night of being alone. But in 1958, the scene in Kramer versus Kramer, where Hoffman wouldn't let the doctor touch his kid to stitch him unless he remained in the room, whatever you're going to do to him, you're going to do to me, was almost 30 years away from being written. What could be more important to a kid than that familiar safety in times of trauma? Isn't this obvious? Could a chair being put in the room next to my bed be that intrusive? Jesus. Yet figures of authority were hardly challenged then, or now, especially those empowered to care for the sick and dying. Their sense of power and order was almost sacrosanct. Their responsibilities was designated by their conscience. Usually it was their call. Well, fuck that. Anyway, there I was in Kings Highway Hospital. I was assigned to an 8-bedded adult room because the adolescent ones were booked. Never a shortage of disease. My folks were ushered out at around 9 that evening. I put my Jack Dempsey book on the nightstand, never to open it. I couldn't concentrate. There were too many strange things to look at and hear. Tubes snaking from underneath sheets, carrying fluids to bottles underneath beds. Glass bottles hanging from metal poles with clear plastic tubing running down and into arms or wrists. Old men with white stubbly beards asleep with their mouths open. A phlegm cough, a fart, and sometimes a deep sigh of defeat. The night and shadows turned the yellow hall light into phantoms dancing on top of the surfaces around and adjacent to me. A nurse came in carrying a metal tray like a butler about to serve an aperitif. She looked down at me, and though I really didn't want to, I smiled. Norman, this is for you. What is it? Insulin. Don't worry, dear. I won't hurt you. What's insulin? Something to make you feel better. She took the syringe off the tray and poised herself above me and pushed up my hospital gown. Hold this for me, would you? I turned my head to avert my eyes as she injected the insulin into my upper arm. Before she left, she told me where the button was to call the nurse, if I needed to. For the remainder of the evening, they pumped me with insulin and had to get up periodically to pee in a bottle. Sometime during the night, I woke in a cold sweat, trembling. I pushed the button. A nurse came in and I told her what I felt. She rushed out and came back with orange juice and sugar packets, which she mixed into the glass. What I later learned was an insulin reaction subsided. For the first time in many months, I slept for more than an hour without getting up to go to the bathroom and drink. The daylight brought no solace. The night had a quality of make-believe to it. The day was Euclidean.